Right, back live with you tonight on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. Fresh out of the NEC meeting, it's the NEC Subcommittee on Legislature and Governance member, Thembi Nkadimeng, joining us now. She made some comments earlier on dismissing some of the claims around the financial position of municipalities, saying not all of them are corrupt, but others, of course, are finding themselves in these precarious positions because of the economic times and the assumptions that were made around the fact that all the other services will be able to generate enough revenue for those municipalities to survive. We'll talk to you about that and more. You can be a part of the conversation tonight on 072-110-5584. Otherwise, you can tweet us at Newzroom 405. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, and good evening to the viewers.
So do we refer you as minister now, or do we refer you just...
The invitation was very clear, ANC Local Legislature and Governance Committee, so I'm an NEC deployee.
All right, we refer to you as NEC member then, yes. For this conversation. Let's talk about what is really, I suppose, a popular conversation right now around the review of the rules on a motion of no confidence. I think there are 3 bills that have been brought by the Democratic Alliance that they are making their way through Parliament and out for discussion, and I think they suggested some of these things to the Deputy President, and he was quite keen on relooking some of these things. But what is your view? I mean, 3 things essentially that they are saying is introduce an electoral threshold to stabilize the fragmented coalition governments, expand time allowed to negotiate these things so that they don't run out of time. So, you've got to put a mayor at this particular time, and limit the use of the motion of no confidence. What came out of your conference?
Well, it's of interest that you've only picked up the DA. In fact, in Parliament in February this year, a debate was sparked, generated by the Chief Whip of the African National Congress to debate about the structure of municipalities and how best could we manage coalitions. And secondly, our own coalition framework suggests some of the key 3 things, even beyond what they're suggesting. One, that we must improve and along the 14 days of legislation allowing to form a council. It has proven that it takes longer than 2 weeks to form a coalition that could run and govern in a council. Yeah. And instead of just saying we agree with that, the same thing with the threshold. We introduced the threshold in the debate. We actually even went to an extent of calculating. Yeah. For example, there are 24 individuals or different parties in the city of eThekwini that are running currently, that before Mayor Kaunda can adopt a budget in the coalition that he is running, he has to go around and beg, understand me, and request for an extension. Yeah. And we even went to an extent of calculating that if you put a 1% threshold in a city of eThekwini, it will reduce that 24 parties and individuals. Remember, they are independent candidates in the local municipal elections. It will reduce them to 7. We did the same in the city of Johannesburg. So really, it is not an issue of establishment. We have, for example...
That brought the bill. You are still busy negotiating them.
It's not a negotiating. Yeah. It's not a negotiation. Remember, from the African National Congress point of view, all the parties, when they came out of the elections, particularly the major ones, said, we don't want to talk to the ANC. We don't want them. They're only wanting us now when they realize, wow, we may have desires, but they actually will not be realized with everybody not in the table. And for us, for starters, it has been politically maturity to just say, I don't talk to anyone. Yeah. Because your name is Thabo, I don't even want to talk to you, even when you are a stakeholder. Yeah. But political maturity says, how many people are on the table here? Let's talk to them. Let's see how we could. Right.
When we had the majority. Why do you need more than 14 days?
No, well,
why can't they?
That's how the law is defined.
The coalitions be in other instances? In fact, I even heard the president saying some of them are even negotiated even before the elections.
I mean, Kenya is an example. Yeah. That does a negotiation even before. But that's the current legislation which gives 14 days. But show me any single municipality where we will say we've even been opposed to it and not granting it an extension. How long did it take for the city of Johannesburg to form its coalition?
Yeah,
it was way beyond.
Beyond the market.
Yes. In fact, there were 3 extensions that were granted to the city of Johannesburg. Yeah. So you can't say the ANC-led government when it's not governing, even when there are legitimate requests, they are not being granted. They are. But we're even moving further beyond the 3 areas that they are talking about. For example, instituting and ensuring that IDPs are legislated, a number of motion of no confidence. They should be based on issues that are related either to service delivery, compliance. Let's say a mayor doesn't want a MPEG report to be delivered.
Yeah.
That's a transgression of a law. You can place a motion of no confidence. But currently, motion of no confidence about, Thabo didn't greet me very well in the passage today, therefore, and this party is promising me a better position, which have got bigger budget, therefore I'm moving away from that.
By and large, is after parties lose power and then they quote others, lobby others, and say now we can vote with you and then bring a motion of no confidence to exchange power.
As I am saying, we started on a back foot, not by our own choice. Democracy's expression came and parties chose. I'm not here to talk about others except the ANC, but parties chose and vocally, openly said, we're not going to engage the ANC. We don't want to work with them in all the municipalities. Let's all collaborate and push them into the opposition.
Talk to me a little bit about what you mentioned. You were trying to explain it. It's a little bit complicated. IDPs must be legislated. So give us a practical example of what you're talking about.
Maybe when I'm saying legislated is confusing because anyway, IDP is legislated by law to be an integrated plan of a municipality. But they must also be locked, if I may use that term loosely. Why? Remember, every April, May, a mayor must go out and talk to communities and residents, as stated by law.
Right.
And that's what informs an IDP.
Yes.
So you are a resident of Nelson Mandela Bay. You say housing is important, that road and that whatever. And I'm the mayor. Yeah. It comes, it gets to be. And I'm coming from a coalition, I'm Mayor A. In 2 months' time, it's Mayor B. And Mayor B no longer goes to the community but changes the IDP. Yes. Where does he get the mandate from?
Okay.
So much as you lock the number and minimize and ensure that there's legislation which regulates, you must also regulate that an IDP, it's a contract between government and its resident. Okay. That is enshrined in the Constitution, and it can only be the community that changes.
Also, I mean,
we actually have...
One of the issues that you raised was the fact that the money is going back to treasury.
Of course, I was about to give you an example.
Budgets that reflect community engagement.
Yeah.
Which means they are engaging communities but doing nothing there.
Yes, because remember, a government spending has processes. So if a mayor A, Mayor B changes the plan just like that, you have run it halfway, just as it's about to be approved. I come in, I change it, I start another process.
Yeah.
And 12 months is nothing. I mean, at the local government sphere, now, we're turning back around 900 million.
Yes.
At the end of this financial year that ended a week or so ago.
Yeah.
900 million, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a money that is a breach of a promise to our community, either to do a road or water or sanitation or whatever. And that is why for us as the ANC, the important message about the today that we have had is to ensure that we equip as the ANC, we accelerate, we capacitate our councillors, we put them as per our parameter saying to monitoring and evaluation to ensure that the promise has been delivered. We ensure that all our ward councillors are part of a community liaison issues. They go, they deliver into communities, they go and explain the challenges that council faces, because the ANC is even blamed in areas where it's not even governing. But people say, we voted for you in the wards. I mean, there are about 4,500 wards in South Africa. It's a known fact that the ANC has over 60% of those wards. So it means the promise of a social compact still lies. Largely, the people of South Africa believe that the African National Congress can better their lives. And that's what we believe as the NEC. So our discussions were more about how do we equip, how do we accelerate, how do we move in the space of ensuring that delivery happen. Not only in areas where the ANC govern, because our contract is not about the ANC.
So on this review, on the rules of the motion of no confidence, are you going to be supporting what is there, or are you going to be playing politics?
In fact, they are supporting us. As I'm saying, they are supporting us. We came with the 14th day, we came with the threshold, we came with the IDPs, we came with the, David Makura, our head of political education in the ANC, developed a position paper on the frequency of motion of no confidence in councils and what it will entail. And it is part of how we're dealing with the issues of coalitions and a mixed model of ensuring that we We entrench DDM in all the areas of interventions, even if municipalities are not under coalition. So we are leading here. We're not going to oppose for the sake of opposing. That is why we're not even refusing to sit in the same table with people who said we don't want you before. Yeah. We said we're matured politically. Okay. We're saying, okay, we're happy we have realized that we can only be, that is why I always say local government is about the people. Yes, it's about their business.
So you were speaking recently, I think at the conference for the district development model in Stellenbosch, and you said that law enforcement should be brought into the district development model. What do you mean by that?
Okay, let me give an example of the Tsobotla. One of our dysfunctional municipalities followed the law, dissolved it, had new elections on the 14th. So in a year, they were dissolved. From 2021 November, when we formed council, in the December of 2022, on the 14th, we held elections for a new council. Yeah. Afterward, had a barrage of difficulties in terms of implementing of services. We're still struggling even today. We mean that we need communities, to participate in municipal. But the difficulty in the Tsobotla, it's also an area that is full in council, that is full of interference even from business gangsters who come even into council meetings to enforce some of the decisions. And how do they enforce them? They don't talk, but they threaten people outside. So they call you after that and say, we saw you say you did not vote for that and we were here. In some instances, they don't come. They have got people who report to them. It's a system that shows you that even when you want to follow the law to the end, without proper community participation, you will have limitation in how you run municipalities. And in this instance, nothing has not been done. We've done Section 154 to try and support the municipality. It didn't spend. We placed it under intervention. It actually did not listen. Yeah, we were stonewalled. We moved for 139C, which is a dissolution. We dissolved council. We started afresh. We're still struggling.
So what do you want now?
Now what we are going to do? No. Remember, local government, yes, then you need to move into law enforcement agencies, which needs to be equipped to be able to move. And it has been done. We had one municipality in the Western Cape which was refusing to submit books to the Auditor General. And we applied the law in the process to say, the law enforcement officers, SIU, move in, take all the computers, take all the paper, analyze and assist the Auditor General. So those are measures in which they are drastic. You are even widely opening your eyes. Yeah. But we are at the stage where, if you look into the financial mail of mid-June, the AG is saying, look, I'm trained as an auditor, not as a gun-carrying individual.
Now, I'm opening my eyes that it has to take that. Why is it that it has to get to that level for people to do what they're supposed to do? They've been voted by the people to do exactly that. But you've got to get to a point where you force them.
Now, that is why my first opening statement is to say it's for the community participation to be able to elect their leaders. Who goes to the voting poll? Who has given us the councillors in this country? Who has given us the members of provincial legislature? The list goes on. So it means we need to take keen interest of who really are our community leaders. As a party, we have taken responsibility. We have a political barometer. We have set educational requirements. We have done interviews. And we're not saying the system is perfect. It's also from the learnings of the shortcomings that local government as a sector has. But we'll equally want to see other parties
claims
doing
like,
the
for example, what
thing.
IFP is saying in Tegwini is saying senior officials do not qualify to hold top positions. I mean, talking about municipal managers, for example. I mean, you're saying you've done all the things.
Well, I can tell you how difficult it is to recruit in a municipal sphere today. I've been a mayor myself. There's a time I advertised for an engineering post. I received 9 applications. 9. Not even 10. I tried to recruit. There's a policy that you can go and up. Even in national government, you can go to DBSA and ask for a process that allows you to go and headhunt. And you will look for people who will tell you very well, I don't want to die, I love my family. I can't. There are areas where we would want to intervene and we get stopped.
Yeah.
There are areas where the AG want to go and audit and we get stopped. There are areas where government and municipalities wants to run and roll out infrastructure and there's construction mafia.
Yeah.
So it's a community issue. Not only that government will abdicate the responsibility of law enforcement, but you need a buy-in from the community to own the water project, that the water is about us.
But they say the mafias, they work for the very same politicians that are saying, well, it's a community issue. But they work for you as politicians.
Well, I don't have a mafia. I've never seen a politician who has a mafia. If there is one, law enforcement agency. Law enforcement agency, go to the police and say, Thabo is a mafia. He's stopping a project at 123 space and we would want to intervene. But we've adopted the consequence framework as well as the African National Congress. And most of the time when you talk about the consequence framework, you guys think of a step aside. No, we're assessing. I mean, on Tuesday I'm going for an assessment of my 100 days in office. Not by government, by what the fundamentals of what the ANC, when it requested me and deployed me to be a minister.
How are you going to do that?
I've been assessed as a deputy minister.
Minister Mkhulu sitting right there where you are. And I said to him, part of the challenge we're having with water infrastructure is because some of the people who are there are actually not qualified to be there. They don't even know. They're not even near. They don't know what's spotting. His eyes popped open. He said, yeah, it's a reality.
Well, it's true. It's true. We have a RAN skills audit to say that people, the outcome indicated that there are people who are in positions that they are unable to. The AG has also given it to us, at least within the financial units of municipalities. That the reason why we're paying for consultants is also precisely that some of our financial staff are not qualified, and some.
These people?
Well,
because you're saying, particularly when it comes to financial management, you're going to bring in some support to these municipalities.
For example, we have a partnership with Engineering South Africa. We have a partnership with SAICA, which is the Chartered Accountant of South Africa. But we also have packages of government implementing agencies like DPSA, which are able to offer. We have an infrastructure unit, MISA, which is our government agency. We have got SALGA, which acts on behalf of all the municipalities and takes a great deal in terms of capacity development, both in working streams for administrators and the councillors who are public representative or politicians, as we would like to put it. So there are diverse programs which are running in 5 streams, of what then the consequence management framework is what it is. The ANC says accelerate service delivery, ensure that as a government or led by the ANC, now you take over in areas where municipalities can be able to develop the capacity. I mean, for example, in partnership with the University of Cape Town, we have taken a step of ensuring that we develop cost accounting measures for all the municipalities to follow on how much it costs to build a road, a particular kilometer in this type of a terrain. I mean, human settlement has not. You know how much RDP costs. But we have not been having unit standards. And we went professionally, we developed that. University of Johannesburg is assisting us also with the training. So it's quite a number of streams which ensures that right up to asset management, which is one of the areas which we are not doing well, which is coupled with records management. Okay. But key and fundamental of why municipalities are there is to deliver a service to the people. And that is why our story is more about
interesting. You're saying as you're doing the media briefing, you're going in because you're going to present to the NEC that sent you and said, go around the country, know exactly which road has got potholes, which pipe is broken, which power station needs to be sorted out. Have you done that exercise?
We've done it on around 246 municipalities.
Let's take a break. I want you to give us more details on that when we return. We'll continue in a moment in this conversation. NEC member in the African National Congress looking at legislature that has got to do, of course, with local government. Let's have your views tonight, 072110554. Otherwise, tweet us at Newzroom405. We're back in a moment. And still with us, NEC member of the African National Congress. She is chairperson of the Subcommittee looking at legislature and governance. And she is, of course, talking to us on some of the work that they are planning to do, particularly to stabilize local municipalities. Now, 168 municipalities having unfunded budgets. I mean, literally it means they are spending money they don't have.
In fact, the number is reduced to around 116.
Quite
a lot, quite a lot of improvement and hard work that has been put.
It could be one or two reasons. One, people have no understanding of budgets, or councillors are approving these budgets without reading them properly. Or two is the issue that has been raised a couple of times, that the assumptions that have been made around allocations, particularly to local municipalities in rural areas, are wrong, have been wrong. You assumed that those people will be able to pay for services and municipalities would recover enough to be able to maintain.
I agree. The dream of our forebears was that, yes, you will receive some form of funds and support from government in the forms of grant, but 90% you must generate from the communities for the services that you are offering in water, in electricity, in surcharges that you could. But the fact of the matter, high unemployment, and even the inequality gap, which just showcased that it is still difficult for government to cover all the areas equally, to ensure that there are equal opportunities that get into all the areas equally, has proven that the fiscal formula is incorrect. And we have taken a step in terms of that. We're actually almost on our third law of discussion. Not only at an ANC level, it has given instructions. It is very clear to say support the small municipality in the meantime, but also ensure that it is graded properly so that it can even attract the skills. For a rural municipality to hire a qualified chartered accountant, nobody is attracted to getting 320,000 in a small municipality in the Eastern Cape when he or she is a chartered accountant, compared to a 1.8 million which the city of eThekwini will pay for a chartered accountant. So those are some of the disparities which makes it difficult for the attraction of skills at the local government, particularly in small and rural municipalities. But yes, we have also looked beyond the issue of the grading and the issue of the input of how municipalities could be able to be assisted, to do an entire system overhaul, to even incentivize municipalities that want to spend their budgets appropriately and fit the accountability ecosystems of the Auditor General. They can account properly. Because currently the system now, it makes the small and poor more poor. Right? I mean, you have got small municipalities like Winnie-Matikizela in the Eastern Cape. They got a clean audit, yet they are struggling in spending of their MIC because they are unable to attract engineers. They only can be able to attract candidate engineers who, after qualifying, they leave. So they are on a curve, in a rotational basis, trying to attract a skilled personnel that will be able to develop that. And we have come with measures. For example, we have placed 103 qualified experts from the built environment, engineers and whatever, as the government of the ANC, to ensure that we support such municipalities with regard to planning, to business plans development, and to ensuring that those reports that are necessary before money could be released are done on their behalf.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. There's some who've raised concerns around the MIG, saying, one, the MIG, the way that is structured, it only caters for new infrastructure.
No, we've dealt with that in the past.
So you have dealt with
as in 2 years ago, actually. One of the decisions when I arrived at COCTA, we had just approved that MIG can be used even for maintenance. Initially, the terms of MIG were the hope that will help you to introduce new infrastructure. You maintain by ring fencing the money that you collect from water for the water, that you collect from energy for the energy. But we have spoken about collection. When we realize that collection in some other areas does not come, maybe what you could be able to say, we could have been prompt than the 2 years ago. But now they are on the second cycle, where they could be able to ring fence, but also use MIG for maintenance of infrastructure. So we've passed the mark. On whatever that the ANC resolves, we do implement that.
So in your view, why is it, for example, in eThekwini, they have failed to roll out the 1.2 billion that they were given for flood relief?
Well, they are at about 850 now in terms of rollout. The key challenge here we're talking about was the pace, right? But there were negating factors, which I also spoke to. For example, identification of land, which wasn't prompt enough. Because remember, they were in a wet area, which got to be flooded, and we couldn't rebuild in that area. But even when the municipality had made attempts for the relocation of the people into available land, the community rejected it. You know. Now, we are a democratic organization. Key of our fundamentals is to say, talk to your people, listen to them. In as much as it is possible, allow them to be able to give you guidance on how you need to lead them. And we understand it from a point of view that your area of birth, you have got sentimental attachment. You could have buried your mother and your father, your relatives and everybody else. That is why it is difficult to uproot a person from one area to the other. But also, community awareness with regard to disasters. I mean, people still take it like that disasters are real. There's an area where I was operating, and I actually even had to make people sign that we have been told by the municipality that you must not reside here. Because it's a wetland, it's a wet area. And people went on and built. I went to court to try and stop it, and the court said, no, you don't have a local standard. The land is not yours, it's traditional. Therefore, you can only build them or charge them with regard to violation of bylaws, because that is agricultural land and is not a formal settlement. So there are measures in which we try in leadership to also curb some of those disasters. But we can also talk about the early warning systems that the ANC has put in place. In fact, when we talk about the floods, for example, in Nkomas, the African National Congress was the first to arrive, even before me, a government deployee. They distributed food parcels to communities. They had already registered them, because the strategy of the ANC is be with the people at all times. So when they are in need, flooded, with no housing, it's the African National Congress that must go in and provide hope to the people of South Africa. And that's what we are about. That is why we say our intention, noble, from the beginning up to today, have always been about building better communities.
Talk to me about what you have found out in terms of degrees of service delivery or levels of service delivery and where it is needed. Roads, infrastructure, water infrastructure in the parts of South Africa.
Well, I can accept that we are finding difficulties, even in big areas now. What is the delivery level of a metro, nice and big with money, like a city of Johannesburg or Tshwane? Yeah. Yes, our initial problems have been about attraction of capacity, the 90% no payment. But people in areas, even in urban areas, there is urban poverty now. That's why the people of Diepsloot will struggle to pay a city of Johannesburg, but demands the same services. So the degree of the closure of the gap of quality and inequality in South Africa is huge. And the magnitude of what municipalities need to cover is actually the allocation of funds that are there, regardless of the fact that we can't spend all of them. Next to nothing. It's a 9% of the national fiscus, which goes to local government, which is why the ANC says review the entire thing and ensure that through DDM you centralize even sector departments to the wards to be able to bring delivery services together. Now, one example I can tell you that the ANC has made an instruction. We all know what are the road status in Mahikeng, for example. Some are provincial roads, some are national roads, some are local roads. Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't make a difference to the people.
When they are driving
hence we are saying,
there's a pothole the size
exactly.
Of the
hence
station.
We are saying, Minister Chukunga, get into Standerton and fill and ensure that there are roads, the even municipal roads. And that is why when we are saying we are introducing a mechanism of government working together, and that is what we mean. By ensuring that what does not matter to you, who does the road, you want a road done. Yeah. We also should not make it a priority of who does the road, but look into capabilities, look into resources, look into capacity, and look into capability of either of the spheres, and walk in as the ANC government and provide services to our people. So that's what the NEC resolved today.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming in and assisting us in this conversation. That's chairperson of the Subcommittee on Legislature and Governance, also Minister of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs, Thembi Nkadimeng.